Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the bracket reveal show for the next stage of the Zelda 2 Randomizer tournament. I believe I'm joined by Link Sevens. What's up?
There you are, Big Shake.
Hey, yeah, sorry, I was just getting a few things set up on my end to make sure everything
Yeah,
was ready to go.
I saw you were on mute, so I said, hey, well, I'll just go to the bathroom first and then I'll come back.
Well, you made it just in time. We're about to get this show on the road.
All right, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Uh, so
I'm
be- so before we get to the brackets, I know that's what everybody wants to see. But before we get to the brackets, I thought we could take just a moment to kind of talk about the format of the bracket round.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So the flags are going to change. We've been using the Swiss flags for the last month, but the flags are going to change every week from now until the end of the tournament, and going to get actually progressively more difficult as time goes on. So starting with this bracket round, we're racing Swiss flags, but we no longer have a candle, and we have to use the more difficult enemy randomization, and there's no more extra keys involved. So
I actually found that to be a little bit interesting because I looked back at the flags, and to me, the strange part was this first round we have mixed small and large enemies, but the encounters are not randomized.
yeah, that's correct. And counter randomization happens the following round, so
Following round.
the round of 8. Yeah.
I think ranking difficulty of flags, I would have put that the other way around.
Well, I do think that there's definitely a difficulty spike here, a pretty significant
Oh,
one.
yeah. So I know early on when the randomizer came out and we started doing races because I started pretty early on. That was one of those things like every race I would come in like, let's leave on the candle
Yeah.
because Dark Death Mountain is pretty scary. At this point, I've played enough of them that I'm like, candle, no candle, it'll be fine.
I think the harder enemy set's probably the bigger challenge, although it comes with benefits too. I mean, more larger enemies means you're going to get more experience and probably.
Yeah, it just means there are some of those, particularly like rooms with crumbling bridges and, like fun rooms in the Great Palace. You get some randomized larger enemies there throwing stuff at you, and it becomes really hard not to fall into the lava. So that's definitely a step up in difficulty.
Yeah. So then the following week we have the shuffle encounters, like we mentioned. Life and attack will be randomized, which could be
That's
good or bad, right?
Yeah, it can be a mixed bag, for sure.
You could end up with a really powerful attack by the end, or you could end up doing hardly any damage. I think you definitely notice at least one or two of those attack levels are garbage at some point along the way.
I've played seeds where attack 3 or even attack 4 is almost useless.
Yeah.
So can go both ways for
Yeah.
sure.
And we're taking away the combined fire spell at that point as well. It'll just be back to normal fire. So one less out for Reflector Thunder. Once we do that one, once we get past that round of 8, for the final 4 flags, we're doing we're gonna shuffle the life refill amount, which a lot of these options can be either good or bad, and this one's included. I don't know how many of the top tier runners are using the life spell a whole lot. It certainly comes in handy, but if it's 1 bar, it's basically useless.
Yeah, that's even top tier players, and especially it speaks to me when you watch someone like a simple dude versus an error, and both of those guys are top mechanics guys. But you see how they handle situations where maybe it's a different mix of enemies than they're used to.
Yeah.
And that it does make a big difference. So something like a life spell that only gives you 1 bar can really give you game overs a lot more often than you'd like.
Sure. They're also going to be capped at 7 heart containers max. That's another one that I think, may not be like having 7 hearts is plenty for, I think, anybody who's capable of making it to the final 4, but it also means that there will just be fewer heart containers to find. So
Yeah.
That could be a problem. And then for the finals, we basically pull out all the stops. We get the Long Great Palace, which is always fun. Well, that's one way of saying it anyway. Can be very frustrating. They're going to start with 3 heart containers, and interestingly, they're going to have to have the right magic containers to pick up all the spells.
Yeah, that's one that I feel like a lot of open races and stuff, that flag is just automatic. So if you don't have it, that could be confusing. You may actually spend your time digging into a town and find out, oh, hey, I can't actually get this spell yet.
Yeah.
If it's something you're not used to.
Yeah, for the tournament's sake, though, there will only be 2 people at that point, and I'm pretty sure whoever those 2 people are will probably be familiar with that setting. It used to always be that way when the randomizer first came out.
Yeah, before those flags were added, for sure.
So yeah, and 2, you have to remember that these are cumulative, right? Like, these flags keep getting added on, so it's gonna just get harder and harder as we go. And I'm actually really excited for that. I think it's a great format change from last year.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for the format. So let's go ahead and get into these matchups. We got 8 matchups in total. There are 16 runners left remaining, so there'll be 8 matchups. And I guess that's the one final thing we should talk about. It's single elimination. You lose and you're out. Once we get to the final 4, however, it will go into a best of 3 situation. But for the next 2-ish weeks or so, it's win or go home for all these people. So let's take a look at our first matchup. First up on our list, we've got Kulane versus AMAZINGAMPHAROS. So Kulane, one of the 2 runners to go 4-0 during the Swiss phase. AMAZINGAMPHAROS, I think, is the person who snagged the very last spot in the play-in race last night. So, what do you think about this? What do you think about this matchup?
That should be a good matchup, I think. Gosh, it's tough. I feel like just a lot of the open races that I've been in, I would give maybe a slight edge to AMAZINGAMPHAROS, but it really depends on just item luck and execution. So it could go either way, I think. AA is much better than his 2-2 record lets on. That's for sure. He is really good at this randomizer and other randomizers, actually. But this one too. So this is not going to be an easy race for either of these runners, I don't think. Yeah, for sure. It's a pretty good draw, I think. Yeah. Oh, by the way, actually, I probably should have talked about how I generated these matchups as well. There was a degree of randomness to it, since there were no really good ways of comparing. But it wasn't, I guess, uniformly random. What I did was there's something called median Buchholz, which I probably didn't even pronounce correctly. But basically what that is strength of schedule. And so I weighted the random draw by that score. So for example, Kulane and I both had 4-0 records, and my score was a 6, and Kulane's score was a 5 on the median Buchholz strength of schedule. So that means that I had a 6 out of 11 chance of taking the number 1 seed, and Kulane had a 5 out of 11 chance of taking the number 1 seed. And just so happens that he got picked anyway, which is not terribly surprising. But I just wanted to make it clear exactly how I decided to do that. All right, cool. Well, let's take a look at our next matchup. 1 down, 7 to go.
Oops, I'm sorry, I just spoiled one of them. Anyway, Scorpion Max versus Nirm is our next pairing here. So Scorpion Max went actually both runners went 3-1 in the Swiss rounds here. Max was my final opponent actually. Nirm, I feel like, has been running real hot recently. I don't know if you've witnessed that as well.
Yeah, I think that's another good one. In I feel like Max is a better vanilla guy, whereas Nirm has been in very many just open races over the last several months. So I kind of feel like that's a case of just raw game talent versus randomizer talent.
Yeah, well, I mean, Max though has shown that it's not just raw game talent. He's been putting up great times in the rando too, which is interesting because he does not race with us very often. He's just very naturally picked it up.
No, he hasn't been in very many open races. I feel like that kind of, I would throw him a little bit in with like an Error, who also is not in very many open randomizer races, but is very good at the randomizer.
Yeah, Nirm's basically the exact opposite. I don't know that I've ever seen Nirm speedrun vanilla Zelda 2.
100% all keys or something, yeah.
I don't think that he has, to the best of my knowledge, but he's very good at Zelda 2 randomizer, so and races all the time, so
yeah.
You got a pick for this one? You got a favorite?
Gosh, I feel like I'm just, with the experience I've had with open races, I feel like I'd lean Nirm, but I feel like if it's a more straightforward seed, it could easily go the other way.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good assessment. I was leaning towards Nirm slightly too, but it's really close. I would not be surprised to see Max take this one either in this matchup. It'll be a really fun one to watch, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure.
All right, let's see what we got up next. I actually accidentally spoiled this next one. This is actually a rematch. Jam Evil coming in at 3-1 versus ROSECITYSAINT coming in at 2-2. So we kind of got a grudge match here between these two guys. They faced off, I want to say, in the second round of the Swiss bracket. And Jam Evil took that one, I believe. I don't remember what the final times were, but ROSECITYSAINT kind of surprised people last night and got in the play-in race.
He really killed it in the play-in race.
Mm-hmm. Although I think Jam has also been a pleasant surprise this tournament too, because clearly very talented Zelda 1 randomizer player won that tournament. Has not played a ton of Zelda 2. Zelda 2 randomizer, I mean.
He played some of the like early pre-Overworld randomizer, and then he kind of jumped off it until just maybe a month or two before this tournament. It seemed like he played a couple.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's sort of been grinding it out ever since he decided to join this tournament. He's been grinding it out, and you can see he's picked it up very quickly. I mean, ROSECITYSAINT though too has been on the scene for a couple months, maybe, I want to say.
Yeah, it's been a short time, but also just the learning curve. I feel like ROSECITYSAINT picked up a lot of things very fast, and just looking at that race from last night, you can see the improvements are there. Mm-hmm. So I feel like he's actually got a good shot here.
Yeah, well, he'll definitely be out for revenge, right? Losing to Jam in the Swiss round, so it'll be interesting to see if he can turn the tables on Jam this time around. Alrighty, let's take a look at our next matchup here. What is this? Matchup number 4, I want to say. We've got Jackamus and Error 72, both coming in at 3-1. And I feel like this is just going to be an insane one. Just knowing their two playing styles.
Yeah, that'll be worth a watch for sure.
They both have this kind of just sort of. I honestly never know what either of these two guys are gonna do in a race. They're, they just kind of wing it. It seems like sometimes, but they do it really well, obviously, because they're winning lots of races.
Yeah. There's a lot of just good solid mechanics for both of them, and especially Air, with all the vanilla running, and his SGDQ run was great.
Yeah,
that should be a race to watch.
Yeah, Air is another one of those runners that is very good at vanilla Zelda too. Although honestly, Air is just one of those guys who I feel like can sit down and pick up any game and be really good at it in a very short period of time. And Jack's kind of that way too, actually. If you ever go watch Jack's stream,
I'm not sure I've watched him play much besides Zelda 2.
He's also really good at Dragon Warrior Randomizer. Made a really deep run in that game last year. He does blindfolded punch out runs. Plays Smash TV a lot, and also just very good at video games in general. So this is going to be, I know we've said this for lots of matches, but this match might be the one I'm looking forward to the most.
I feel like Error is one of those ones where it's funny because especially if you listen to him talk about his own performance, he's very self-deprecating, but at the same time when you watch him race, I watched him earlier in this tournament and I kept thinking, I kind of hope I don't draw Error just because some of the things he does, you kind of question his decision, and then sometimes he just scares you because he'll think he's behind and he'll just dump 3 gems in a row and make up 5 minutes out of nowhere.
Yeah, he did that at the end of his race versus who was that?
And
can't remember.
And it wasn't enough to catch up, but it's the kind of thing you watch and you go, ooh. If he was within 5 minutes of somebody, right? That's really scary, right?
Yeah.
How do you cope with something like that coming at you?
Yeah, for sure.
So that should be fun. That should be a good race.
Yeah. All right, halfway down, we got 4 more matchups to talk about here. Let's take a look at the next one. Oh, this is a little awkward. Well, it's going to be you and me, Link Sevens. We're going head to head.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fun.
So you got were you 3rd place in the race yesterday or 2nd place? I can't remember. Second place. Second place in the play-in race last night behind EUNOS, and just so happened to draw the seed that goes up against myself. So
yeah, and I had lost to EUNOS in the Swiss round, so I wasn't too shocked to lose to him in the play-in race. And a lot of open races that I join, I usually sort of expect to come in behind both you and EUNOS. But at the same time, I have beat both of you in open races before, so it's not outside the realm of possibilities. So it will still be a fun race.
Yeah, that's true. And this is actually a rematch, not of this year, but of a race that we did last year.
Last year, yeah. I think we met in the losers bracket last year.
Yeah, it was kind of deep in the losers bracket, I believe.
Yeah. I think I had lost to, was it EUNOS in the winners bracket?
Jack. You lost to Jack.
Oh, no, it was Jack. You're right. It was Jack.
Yeah.
And then I ran into you fighting through the losers bracket. So
it was a close race, though. I've got it right up here, and we were only separated by a few minutes at the end. So, and even when you look at the open races, it's always pretty close between us in those races. So I'm definitely not taking this lightly. I just want you to know.
Yeah, it's not a free win for Dig Shake.
Yeah, I'm gonna go all out, like I always do. All right, cool. Let's move on to our next one. Next up, we've got 3-1 Joshy D going up against 3-1 Enchantress of Numbers. Joshy D, I think, might be some people's Cinderella for this Sweet 16. I'm not sure. Not that's meant as an insult to Joshy D at all. He's actually performed very well, but Enchantress of Numbers actually had a deep run in the last tournament, so no surprise to see her progressing through this one.
Yeah, for sure.
So this should be a great matchup, actually. And I think, honestly, I'm looking forward to the matchup, but more than that, I'm just kind of looking forward to the build-up to this matchup, because...
That's true. And, you know, in all fairness, I feel like my expectation here is I would give Enchantress of Numbers the advantage in the race, and I would give Joshy D the advantage in the trash talking.
Joshy D is a pro at trash talking. If this was a trash talking tournament,
he's got some of that wrestling promoter experience to draw from.
Yeah, he sure does. He knows how to get the crowd hyped up for whatever it is he happens to be doing. So this should be I think it'll be a great race, but also just sort of the hoopla surrounding the race.
I mean, and in all fairness, I mean it's not necessarily a free win for Enchantress of Numbers too. Joshy is capable, and he has, I think, admitted in the Discord of just being uncomfortable with some of the flag changes, which I don't think you'd hear the same from Enchantress.
Wait a second, did I? Hold on. I think I might have made a mistake. Let me just see real quick. Oh, no, I didn't make a mistake. Zarnax freaked me out in chat and said that Jay Coper is still left. Jay Coper was 5th place, Zarnax. Yeah, you just scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, he was 5th. I kind of, you know, I kind of feel bad for Jay Coper, just because, I mean, he didn't have necessarily the easiest draw, and it's tough to finish one out of the knockout round.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I was sitting here thinking, like, I don't remember putting Jay Coper in this. Did I screw something up that badly? Whew. Sorry, apologies to Jay Coper, but I'm glad that I didn't screw it up, because that would have been really awkward.
He's really talented at a lot of randomizers. Actually, he's really good.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's take a look. We got 2 matchups left, so let's take a look at what the next one is. All right, coming in the second to last slot, we got Buzz Thunder going up against EUNOS. I feel like everybody who's not paired up against EUNOS is probably breathing a sigh of relief right now. Buzz Thunder is probably going to be cussing at me for the rest of the evening.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like at the same time, I feel like this will be a good matchup in that, you know, I'm always feeling like I'm going to be running from behind when I'm against EUNOS, but at the same time, I lost to both of these guys, actually.
Buzz Thunder in chat saying he's ready. So the little backstory.
I think he's been doing probably a better job than I have at some of the, you know, learning some of the additional tracking and stuff like that. That kind of gives you, you know, there are a lot of subtleties that you can learn about palace structures and like just the oddball transfer caves and stuff like that. And I feel like maybe he's done a better job at covering some of that than I have, and maybe that's.
So you're saying he's a student of the game?
I feel like more so than I am, he's done that, and I think that helps him. Whether it's enough to help him pass EUNOS here, I don't know. But,
well, there is some history here. Buzz Thunder lost to EUNOS in last year's randomizer tournament in the winners bracket, and he's certainly not shy about telling you about that race. It was actually a really good race. He has every reason to talk about that race because it was a really good race. So I think it sounds like he's excited to get another crack at EUNOS and finish what he.
It'll be fun. Be a fun one to watch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be rooting for a Kingbot to come into that race.
On EUNOS' side, right?
If somebody doesn't get Buzz Thundered, I'm gonna be disappointed.
Yeah. All right, so that leaves one matchup, and you could probably figure out who it is by process of elimination, but we're gonna take a look and talk about it anyway. We got Zarnax and VREZNOR both coming in at 3-1 to round out this bracket. So Zarnax's been playing Rando for a long time. I want to say he's been playing back almost since the beginning, and Rez is.
I think so.
Rez is another one of those good vanilla players that has also picked up the Rando and has gotten really good at it. So another great matchup between these two runners. I think not a bad matchup in the bunch, honestly.
I feel like this is one place where some of the harder flags may actually help Zarnax a little bit, because I feel like he's one of those ones where, you kind of throw in some of those harder flags and you get some of those more kind of troll seeds with nasty stuff, and he's got a little bit safer strats for stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. REZNOR, and not just REZNOR, but Error made a deep run last year in the tournament, but REZNOR, Max, and the other vanilla runners who might be less familiar with the random mechanics, it'll be interesting to see how well they adapt to that going as the flags get harder and harder. Buzz Thunder in chat wants to know when these races are due by. I'm a big believer in having rounds end on weekends, and I think having it end this weekend is probably too short notice. So for this first round, at least, you will have quite some time to get your match in, probably until the 20th of August. And if everybody finishes sooner than that, of course, we can just keep on going. This is not like the Swiss round where we have to wait on everybody to finish up before proceeding on. So we have a little bit of flexibility there if we need to.
You could do a second round race before all the first rounders are done, is what you're saying.
I would prefer not to, but I mean, if we're waiting on, one match to finish up and everybody else is ready to go, I'm not going to hold up the works,
Yeah.
So we do have that flexibility, and I'm just kind of flexible in general when it comes to this kind of stuff. Zarnax saying we could be done by this weekend. If that happens, it happens, and we keep moving on. I feel like that's too short of a turnaround personally, but
yeah, I mean, if everyone happened to schedule their matches by this weekend,
yeah. Absolutely.
Does seem a little bit unlikely sometimes with Oceans.
Wow. Chat's turning on me right now, but that's okay. I love you, chat. Chat, what race are you looking forward to the most out of these 8 races that we got on our agenda here? Now that we've seen all of the matchups. While they're making fun of me / telling me what race they're looking forward to the most, let me just go ahead and mention that I did have to make a second page for the bracket. So you can find that on the address that you see on the screen, Z2 Rando 2017. As soon as I'm done with this stream, if you are in the tournament, you'll be getting an invitation from Challenge. I did not send those out because I wanted to do the bracket reveal first before sending out those invitations. But I'm going to go ahead and send those invitations out as soon as I cut stream. So let's see what we got. Jay Coper is still salty about yesterday. I'm not surprised about that. Tristal's looking forward to our race. Let me ask you a question, Link, since he brought that up. How much is the missing post-it note scandal of 2017 gonna factor into our race?
I'm a little surprised that I'm actually in this, even though I took second yesterday. I thought maybe I'd get lost in the bracket reveal.
Yeah.
The real question though is what is your Panic Restaurant PB like?
I haven't even timed it yet. I don't want to talk about it.
That's good.
We see Jackmas versus Error being mentioned by a couple people. Is there matches they're looking forward to? Buzz Thunder and UNOS
will be good.
I mean, they're all going to be great. There's not a bad matchup in the bunch.
There's really not.
When you get 16 people who are this good at Z2 Randomizer, it's just going to be a great time.
I think maybe I should ask you, if you look at these matchups, what do you think the closest matchup and the furthest apart matchup will be? Do you have
the closest and the furthest apart? Oh wow, put me on the spot here.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't even know. I'm hoping to see a good close race between Jam Evil and Rose City Saint. Honestly, I don't know if it will be close, but I really hope that it is, because I think the fact that it's a rematch will make that a lot more fun. As far as a blowout goes, I don't know. There aren't any clear candidates for a blowout. That's a tough pick. I could maybe see Jackamus versus Error being a blowout, honestly, because Jack's gonna roll into Palace 6 like first thing and find the glove or something like that, and
Okay.
I don't know. It could happen. I could see it happening, but it'll be exciting no matter what happens.
Yeah, there aren't really any bad races in this. It's any lopsided.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, I think that's going to wrap it up. So the submission form for races is on that page, and like I said, I'm going to send out the invites in like the next 5-10 minutes here, so keep an eye on your inbox if you're a participant in the tournament. Thanks for joining me, Link. Thanks for hopping in.
Yeah, the timing worked out well, so it was good to kind of cover some of these matchups, and we'll see how the week goes. It should be pretty fun.
Yeah, I guess we need to kind of stay on the line afterwards and maybe chat about
talk about race times.
Yeah, for sure. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining us tonight, and enjoy the rest of the tournament. We'll see you at the races.